You know, in all my years of in real estate investing, sometimes people misconceive where I came from, and they'll ask me a lot of times, they'll say, you know, were your parents wealthy? You know, were you given some stuff? And, you know, my response to that is no. I had to work hard for literally everything I went after. And so then the biggest question always pops up. Well, Zach, what drives you? And I think that's really a two-part question, right? Because, you know, as you start your journey, drive is something that's internally in us, but our drive changes as we grow. Our drive changes as we reach levels of success. So where I started at and my drive then is much different than my drive now. Because, you know, I didn't have kids back then, and obviously my kids are my biggest driving component to my life right now. But I want to take you somewhere right now, and I want to show you what drove me to make a change. And it was a very low point in my life. I had pretty much lost everything. I'd had some issues in my life that caused me to, you know, basically get fired from my job. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. Like a lot of people getting started on a journey when they don't have much, you know, they think, well, the world's against them and that there's nothing out there that could benefit them, or it's too big for them to go after. And I'm going to tell you, it's only as big as you make it. And so my journey when I started was a lot like most people. I had struggles. You know, you got to think, I had lost my job. I didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. And the challenge to that was I ended up having to move into a really bad part of town. It was a crack house, drug abuse house. And I was at the lowest of my lows. I was a high school dropout. I had debt collectors chasing me. Now, this is 16 years ago. So it wasn't like, you know, it was that far past. And so you think 16 years ago, this was the neighborhood that I was stuck in. And I could have accepted my reality, or I could have made a change. And I was stubborn enough to make a change. And so, you know, like a lot of people that don't have a college degree or don't have money or credits in the tank, they don't think they have a choice. And I didn't at a certain point in my life neither. And so I'm going to show you where I lived. This was where I lived at, right here. Right here. 714. That was it. That was it right there. 16 years ago, guys. That was it. And you want to talk about, you know, being on the bottom. That was the bottom right there. It was the bottom of the bottom. And my drive here wasn't to focus on what I didn't have, but it was to start focusing on my life and what I wanted out of it, and what was I willing to do to make a change in this. And it wasn't a change that I could reach my hand out and say, help me with this. It was a change that I knew that I had to dig deeper inside of me to say, if I want something out of life, I cannot expect anybody to give it to me, and I had to go get it. And I had to make personal sacrifices to make that happen. And so people always wonder, well, you got the big house now, and you got the boat and the cars, and you travel, but that wasn't what it was when I started. And what did it was this church I'm going to swing you through. They were doing what's called a community yard sale. And you could rent a spot in their parking lot for, I think it was like $75. And I didn't really have a whole lot. I mean, I ate a lot of ramen noodles and bread back then. But I came over here and I signed up for a spot, and I took literally everything I owned. Everything I owned. You name it, I hauled it right over here to this church. This is the church right here. And I'm going to show you the parking spot. And so I parked my truck that I had in right over here next to this tree right here. And that was me right there in that parking spot right by this tree. And I set up everything I owned in that spot and I sold it all. Sold everything. Sold it all. And I ended up making, I don't know, $600 is what I made. And I took all that money and I headed to California. And that was a scary, scary moment because I'm venturing off into the unknown. I'm venturing off into, you know, something I've never experienced before. And I was willing to do that only because I wanted to make a huge sacrifice in my life. I was willing to let go of all of my personal items in my life to make a huge change. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that because they don't understand. If you're going to make changes for the good, you got to work on your life. You got to make changes in your life that you wouldn't normally do, and you got to dig deeper into what it is you really want, and you can then leave a neighborhood like this. I mean, this neighborhood is so poor, and I think of where I live today, and I still pinch myself about it. But at the end of the day, you got to dig inside of you. And you got to quit making excuses about where you are, and you got to start thinking about what you want, and that is when you make changes in your life.